No. How much is this again?
Is something wrong, Dante?
Derek, I just risked my life down there. 6 hours. That oil company paid you $400,000 for this job.
Dante Cross stood on Derek Stone's boat deck, salt water still dripping from his wetsuit, and stared at the envelope in his hand, $4,000. His hand started shaking. Not from the cold, even though he just spent 6 hours at 200 feet below the Gulf of Mexico surface, welding a cracked oil pipeline back together. No, his hands shook because he just made Derek Stone $400,000, and Derek had the nerve to hand him $4,000. Something wrong, Dante? Derek asked, leaning back in his captain's chair like he didn't have a care in the world. The man wore a custom linen shirt, designer sunglasses, gold Rolex catching the Louisiana sun. You look confused. Dante's jaw clenched so hard his back teeth ached. Derek, I just risked my life down there. 6 hours. That oil company paid you $400,000 for this job. I know because I saw the contract on your desk last week. Derek smiled. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile a snake gives a mouse. Business expenses, young man. Boat maintenance, insurance, fuel, permits, equipment. You think this operation runs on wishes and prayers? $4,000, Dante repeated slowly. Each word tasted like the diesel fuel that coated the water around the rig. Out of $400,000. That's your cut. Derek stood up, all 6 feet 3 inches of him. You got a problem with that. Dante looked past Derek at the New Orleans skyline in the distance. 40 miles out, but he could still make out the Superdome. Home, where his 72-year-old grandmother, Mama Louise, was probably sitting in their shotgun house on North Claiborne Avenue, rationing her diabetes medication because they couldn't afford the full prescription. Where his 21-year-old sister, Jasmine, was working a night shift at Derek's warehouse after her classes at Xavier University, scraping together money for textbooks. $4,000 wouldn't cover Mama Louise's medication for 2 months, wouldn't put a dent in Jasmine's tuition, wouldn't fix the roof that leaked every time it rained, which in New Orleans meant pretty much every other day. Yeah, Dante said quietly. Yeah, Derek, I got a problem with that. Before we go any further, you need to understand how Dante Cross ended up standing on that deck with $4,000 in his hand after risking his life for someone else's fortune. Because what happened that morning wasn't where this story began. It started 10 years earlier, with a promise that was never meant to be broken. Dante was 18 years old when his father died. David Cross was a legend in New Orleans maritime salvage. The man could dive 300 feet without breaking a sweat, could weld underwater in conditions that would make Navy divers quit, could find valuable wreckage in the Gulf that other people would spend millions searching for and never locate. People used to say David Cross could smell treasure from 50 miles away. He owned Cross Maritime Recovery. Small operation, just 3 boats and a warehouse on Tchupatula Street, but it was his, built from nothing. And he was teaching Dante everything he knew. Gulf takes, but she also gives, David used to tell Dante. You just gotta be brave enough to dive deep, real deep, where other folks too scared to go. Dante remembered the last day he saw his father alive. David was heading out to salvage a sunken tugboat near the Chandeleur Islands. Derek Stone was with him. Back then, Derek was just David's employee. Eager, hungry, always talking about how he wanted to build something big one day. Be back in 3 days, son, David had said, hugging Dante on the dock. When I get back, we'll talk about you taking over the business one day. You ready for that responsibility? Dante had nodded, chest full of pride. Yes, sir. 3 days later, the Coast Guard showed up at their house. Equipment failure, they said. David's oxygen tank had malfunctioned at 250 feet. By the time Derek pulled him up, it was too late. Dante remembered Mama Louise collapsing in the doorway. Remembered Jasmine, only 11 years old, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Remembered feeling like someone had reached into his chest and ripped out his heart. What he didn't remember was checking the paperwork. Because while Dante was grieving, Derek was at the lawyer's office. Turns out David had made Derek a partner 6 months before he died. 50-50 split. And when David died, his half was supposed to go to Dante, except Dante was 18, in shock, barely functioning. Derek convinced Mama Louise to sign temporary management papers. Just until Dante finished grieving, he said. Just until the boy was ready, he said. Temporary became permanent real quick. By the time Dante came out of his fog of grief 6 months later, Derek had sold Cross Maritime Recovery's assets, bought them back under a new company name, Stone Maritime Salvage, and offered Dante a job. Your daddy would want you to keep diving, Derek had said, hand on Dante's shoulder like he cared. I'll take care of the business side. You just do what you do best. Dive. I got you, young brother. I'll make sure your family's straight. Dante, broken and lost, had believed him. That was 10 years ago. 10 years of Dante doing the impossible while Derek collected checks. 10 years of Dante risking his life in the Gulf's deepest, most dangerous waters while Derek bought bigger boats, fancier cars, a mansion in the Garden District. 10 years of crumbs. Back on the deck, the envelope still felt heavy in Dante's hand. $4,000. Derek looked him straight in the eye. You got a problem with $4,000, Derek repeated, stepping closer. Then maybe you should go work somewhere else. Tony LeBlanc, the boat's pilot, looked away. Tony was Dante's best friend, had been since they were kids playing football in the 7th Ward, but even Tony knew better than to get between Dante and Derek when money was involved. Dante took a deep breath. The air smelled like crude oil and fish and the industrial rot that clung to the Gulf these days. Derek, you know what it's like down there. 200 feet down, where the pressure makes you feel like your skull's about to crack, where one wrong move and you're dead. That's what I pay you for, Derek said simply. You pay me pennies. I pay you exactly what you're worth. Derek's smile disappeared. You're a diver, Dante, a good one, I'll give you that, but divers are a dime a dozen. You think you're special. Something in Dante's chest cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice on Lake Pontchartrain when the temperature drops just enough. My father built this business, Dante said quietly. Your father's dead, Derek shot back. I built this, me. I turned your daddy's little 3-boat operation into $1 million company, and I let you work for me out of respect for David's memory. Don't you forget that, him work. Like it was charity, Dante looked down at the envelope again. $4,000. For a job that required certifications most people didn't even know existed. For work that could kill him 20 different ways. For making Derek rich enough to buy a second house in Baton Rouge. I quit, Dante said. The words came out before he even knew he was going to say them. Derek blinked. What? I said I quit. Dante dropped the envelope on the deck. The bills scattered in the wind, hundreds flying toward the water. I'm done. Derek laughed, but it sounded nervous now. Dante, don't be stupid. Where you gonna go? Who else is gonna hire you? You think Gulf Salvage wants you? You think Maritime Recovery Solutions is calling? Don't know, Dante said, stripping off his wetsuit top. His dark skin was still marked with pressure bruises from the dive, purple and yellow across his shoulders. But I know I'm not making you rich anymore. Ungrateful. Derek caught himself, switched tactics. Smiled again, but this time it was pleading. Look, Dante, you're emotional right now. You just came up from a hard dive. How about we talk about this tomorrow? Maybe I can find some extra money in the budget. Another 1,000 or two, another 1,000. Out of 400,000, Dante said, grabbing his duffel bag. We're done talking. Tony, you coming? Tony looked between them, conflicted. Man, I got bills. I know, Dante said. He didn't blame Tony. Tony had 3 kids and a wife. He couldn't afford to quit. It's all good, brother. Derek's face went hard again. Mean. You walk off this boat, Dante. You're finished in this industry. I know everybody. Every dock, every salvage company, every licensing board. I'll make sure you never work the Gulf again. Dante stepped onto the dock. His legs were shaky, always were after a deep dive, but he kept walking. Dante, Derek's voice was sharp now. Angry, you owe me. Your daddy put me in his will. I could have kicked y'all out, but I gave you a job. I kept your family fed. Dante stopped. Turned around. My family's been eating crumbs for 10 years, he said. And that stops today. He walked away from Stone Maritime Salvage, from Derek, from the only job he'd known since his father died. He had $8,000 in savings. Mama Louise's medication cost $2,400 a month. Jasmine's tuition payment was due in 3 weeks, $6,000. The roof needed fixing before hurricane season. The electricity bill was 2 months overdue. Dante had just quit the only income his family had, and he had absolutely no idea what he was going to do next. Dante pushed open the door to the shotgun house on North Claiborne Avenue at 7:30 that night. The smell of Mama Louise's gumbo hit him first, shrimp and andouille, the kind she made when she was worried about something. "Dante," Mama Louise called from the kitchen. "That you, baby?" "Yes, ma'am." He walked through the narrow hallway. Shotgun houses in New Orleans were called that because you could supposedly fire a shotgun straight through from front door to back door without hitting a wall, and found Mama Louise at the stove. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with gray hair pulled back in a bun and hands that shook slightly from the neuropathy her diabetes caused. But her eyes were sharp as ever when she looked at him. "You quit," she said. "Not a question." Dante stopped. "How you know that? Derek called here 20 minutes ago, cussing and carrying on about ungrateful people." She stirred her gumbo. "Said you walked off his boat in the middle of the Gulf. We're docked when I left." She tapped her spoon on the pot's edge. "So it's true then. Now let me finish." She turned to face him fully. "He also said you threw $4,000 in the water like it was nothing. That true?" "I didn't throw it. The wind." Dante stopped himself. "Mama, he paid me $4,000 out of $400,000. Mama Louise's face didn't change. She just looked at him with those sharp eyes that had seen 72 years of life in New Orleans, had survived Hurricane Betsy in '65, Hurricane Katrina in '05, and every struggle in between. $4,000 pays for my medication for almost 2 months, she said quietly. Dante's stomach dropped. "I know, you threw it away." "Mama, I couldn't," his voice cracked. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep diving down there, risking my life, making that man rich while we can't even afford to fix our roof." "So what you gonna do instead?" Mama Louise asked. "You got another job lined up?" "Not yet, but you got savings, 8,000. She was quiet for a long moment, then she said, "That's 4 months of my medication if we're careful. What about after that?" Before Dante could answer, the front door opened and Jasmine walked in, still wearing her Xavier University hoodie and looking exhausted. "Hey," she said, dropping her backpack. Then she looked between them. "What happened?" "Your brother quit his job," Mama Louise said. Jasmine's eyes went wide. "You what?" "Derek was paying me scraps," Dante said defensively. "Y'all don't understand." "No, you don't understand," Jasmine interrupted. She looked like she might cry or throw something. With Jasmine, it was always hard to tell. "My tuition is due in 3 weeks, Dante. $6,000. I've been working double shifts at Derek's warehouse to save up half." "I thought you were covering the other half with your share from that big job." Room went silent except for the gumbo bubbling on the stove. "I was gonna," Dante started. "With what?" Jasmine's voice went up. "You just quit and now what? I have to drop out after 3 years of busting my tail at Xavier." "Jasmine." "No," she was crying now, angry tears. "You know what people say when black women drop out of college? They say we couldn't handle it. They say we weren't smart enough. I have a 3.8 GPA, Dante. I'm on the dean's list, and I might have to quit because you got too proud to cash a check." Each word hit Dante like a physical blow. "Baby girl," he was trying to, Mama Louise started. "Know what he was trying to do," Jasmine said, wiping her eyes. "He was trying to prove a point." "Well, congratulations, Dante. You proved it. And now we're broke." She grabbed her backpack and disappeared into her bedroom. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Mama Louise turned back to her gumbo. "She'll calm down." "Mama, I'm sorry. Sorry don't pay bills, baby." Her voice was gentle, but it cut deep anyway. "I know Derek was wrong. I know he's been wrong for 10 years, but you got to be smart about these things. You can't just up and quit without a plan." "Figure something out," Dante said. "I promise." "Better." She looked at him with those sharp eyes again. "Because I didn't raise a quitter," Dante cross. "And I didn't raise a fool either. Whatever you gonna do, do it smart." Dante couldn't sleep that night. He lay in his bedroom, the same room he'd had since he was a kid, still had his high school football trophies on the shelf, and stared at the ceiling. Water stains from the leaky roof made shapes like continents. He'd been meaning to fix that for 3 years. Jasmine was right. He'd quit without a plan. Let his anger make decisions his brain should have made. But the alternative was going back to Derek. Going back to risking his life for pennies while Derek got rich. Going back to being the fool everyone thought he was. His phone buzzed. Text message, Tony, you good brother Dante? Yeah, you Tony, Derek's losing it. Tried to hire some dude from Mississippi to do the Beaumont job. Dude took one look at the specs and said hell no. Dante sat up. The Beaumont job. He'd forgotten about that. Dante, what Beaumont job? Tony, you didn't hear. Derek signed a contract with Beaumont Energy last week. $500,000 to recover equipment from that collapsed platform near the graveyard. But there's a penalty clause. $3 million if he doesn't deliver in 30 days. Dante's mind started racing. Dante, $3 million. Tony, yeah man. Derek's sweating bullets. Nobody wants to dive that deep. You know what the graveyard's like. Oh, Dante knew the graveyard. 80 miles southeast of Grand Isle, Louisiana. Officially called Deep Water Recovery Zone 7. But everyone who worked the Gulf called it the graveyard. Because that's what it was. 400 feet deep in some spots. Currents that could drag a diver down before he knew what hit him. Abandoned oil rigs, sunken ships, twisted metal waiting to snag air hoses and slice wetsuits. Great white sharks that cruise through looking for easy meals. And somewhere in all that darkness, a salvage zone nobody had ever successfully worked. Because nobody was good enough. Or crazy enough. Nobody except maybe Dante's father. David Cross had always talked about the graveyard, said there was treasure down there worth millions if someone had the skill to get it. But it was too dangerous, too deep, required too much expertise. David had been planning to try it the week he died. Dante, you still got keys to Derek's office? Tony. Why Dante, I need to see some old files. My dad's files, Tony. Dante, if Derek catches us, Dante, he won't. Meet me at the warehouse in an hour. If you're wondering what Dante found in those files, you need to stick around, guys, because you want to know what happens next. Also, let me know if you would have quit like Dante did or stayed for the money. I want to know what you would do in his position. Tony met Dante outside Stone Maritime Salvage's warehouse at 9 p.m. The building sat on T. Chupatula Street, not far from where David Cross's original operation used to be before Derek sold it off. We got maybe 30 minutes before the night security comes through, Tony said, unlocking the side door. Make it quick. They slipped inside. The warehouse smelled like motor oil and rust in the Gulf. Equipment everywhere, diving suits, welding gear, oxygen tanks, salvage crates. Millions of dollars in gear, all bought with money Dante had helped earn. Derek's office was on the second floor. Tony unlocked it while Dante kept watch. What are we looking for? Tony whispered. My dad's old maps, Dante said. And his salvage license documents. Derek boxed all that up years ago, stuck it in storage. Where? Tony led him to a back corner of the warehouse where old filing boxes were stacked. Each one was labeled, Cross Maritime Recovery 2013. Dante's chest tightened. His father's company, reduced to boxes gathering dust. He started digging through them. Old maps, old contracts, old there, a leather notebook. His father's handwriting on every page. Salvage coordinates, dive logs, equipment notes, and on page 47 a hand-drawn map of the graveyard. Tony, look at this. Tony leaned over his shoulder. The map showed coordinates, depth measurements, current patterns. In the center his father had written, Casino riverboat sunk in 1992, estimated recovery value, $200K in equipment. Your dad was tracking a sunken casino boat, Tony asked. Just tracking. Dante flipped the page, more notes, more coordinates, and then a sentence that made his blood run cold. Derek says equipment cost too much. Postponing graveyard salvage until next quarter. But I know what's down there. When I'm ready, I'm doing this with or without him. Dated 2 weeks before his father died. Dante. Tony's voice was strange. Look at this. Tony was holding a different file. Insurance documents, life insurance policy on David Cross. $500,000 payout upon death, beneficiary, Derek Stone. The warehouse went absolutely silent. When did my father add Derek as a beneficiary? Dante asked quietly. Tony scanned the document. Says here it was amended 6 months before the accident, but he frowned. This signature doesn't look like the one on the other documents. Dante grabbed the file, looked at the signature, looked at his father's signature in the notebook. They weren't the same, the loops were different, the slant was wrong. Someone had forged David Cross's signature. Dante, we need to get out of here, Tony said. If Derek knows we found this, he killed my father, Dante said. The words felt surreal coming out of his mouth. Derek killed my dad for the insurance money. You don't know that for sure. Equipment failure, Dante said, memories flooding back. The Coast Guard said my dad's oxygen tank malfunctioned, but my dad checked his equipment 3 times before every dive. 3 times, he taught me that. He would never go down with faulty equipment unless someone sabotaged it, Tony finished. Dante's hands were shaking now, not from cold. From rage so pure it felt like swallowing fire. Derek had killed his father, stolen his company, and spent 10 years paying Dante scraps to dive the same waters where his father had died. I'm gonna bury him, Dante said quietly. How? Good question. Derek owned everything, had all the connections, all the money, all the power, but Dante had something Derek didn't have. He had skill. He had his father's maps, and he had nothing left to lose. Graveyard, Dante said. Derek needs someone to dive it for the Beaumont contract. He can't find anybody because it's too dangerous. But I can do it. Dante, that's suicide. Not if I do it on my own. Dante grabbed his father's notebook. Tony, what if I lease salvage rights to the graveyard myself, work it independent? Derek's contract is with Beaumont, not with the graveyard. I could salvage that casino boat, sell the equipment, use that money to expand. Lease rights cost money, Tony said. A lot of money. How much for the graveyard? Probably $75,000 a year. Nobody wants it because it's too dangerous, but the Gulf Authority still charges premium because of the potential. $75,000. Plus equipment, boat rental, insurance. Dante would need at least $100,000 to make this work. He had $8,000 in savings. There's someone who might help, Tony said slowly. You remember Captain James Washington? Pops. Dante did. Pops Washington was a retired Coast Guard captain who worked at the Gulf Maritime Licensing Bureau now. White guy, had to be 65 years old, had known Dante's father back in the day. Pops was there the day your dad died, Tony said. He was the one who pulled the body up with Derek. He's felt guilty about it for 10 years, talks about it sometimes when he's had too much whiskey, says he should have checked the equipment himself, should have known something was wrong. You think he'd help me? I think he owes your father, Tony said. And I think if anyone's gonna believe Derek sabotaged that equipment, it's Pops. He never liked Derek, called him a snake more than once. Dante looked at his father's notebook again, at the coordinates, at the dreams his father never got to chase. Up a meeting, Dante said. Tomorrow. Captain James Pops Washington lived in a small house in Metairie just outside New Orleans proper. He answered the door in an LSU Tigers t-shirt and cargo shorts, eyes still sharp despite his age. Dante Cross, Pops said. Heard you quit Derek's operation. Travels fast. It's a small industry, son. Pops gestured him inside. Come on in, I was just having coffee, you want some? They sat at Pops's kitchen table. Photos on the walls showed him in his Coast Guard uniform, usually on boats, usually looking serious. So what brings you to my door? Pops asked. Dante pulled out his father's notebook and the insurance file. I need to ask you about the day my father died. Pops went very still. Dante, his equipment malfunctioned, Dante said. That's what the report said. But my father checked his equipment 3 times before every dive. You knew him. Would he have gone down with faulty gear? Pops was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, no, David was meticulous. It never sat right with me. You checked the equipment after. Derek handled all of that. Said he'd take care of it, file the reports. By the time I thought to ask questions, the equipment had been disposed of. Protocol violation, but Pops rubbed his face. I should have pushed harder. I knew something felt off. Derek forged my father's signature on a life insurance policy, Dante said, pushing the file across the table. Made himself the beneficiary 6 months before my dad died. $500,000. Pops read the document, his jaw clenched. Son of A, I can't prove he sabotaged the equipment, Dante said. It's been 10 years, but I can prove he stole my father's company. And I can make sure he doesn't profit off my father's death anymore. Graveyard. My dad was planning to salvage it before he died. There's a sunken casino boat down there worth maybe $200,000 in recoverable equipment. I want to lease the salvage rights and work it myself. Pops leaned back. You know what you're asking for. The graveyard has killed better divers than you. As good as my father was, Dante said, not arrogant, just fact. And I've got his maps, his coordinates. His knowledge. I can do this. Even if you can, leasing costs $75,000 a year plus equipment. I need about $100,000 total to make this work. Dante met Pops's eyes. I got $8,000 saved. I'm asking if you'll loan me the rest. That's a lot of money, son. I know, but I'll pay you back double. And if I don't, Dante's voice hardened. Then at least I went down trying to get justice for my father instead of making Derek rich for another 10 years. Pops was quiet. Outside, a neighbor was mowing their lawn. A dog barked. Normal sounds on a normal day. Then Pops said, "Your father saved my life once. Back in 2004, before Katrina hit. We were out doing recovery work and a riptide caught me, pulled me under. David dove in without hesitation. Nearly drowned himself getting me to the surface." He stood up, walked to a desk, pulled out a checkbook. I told him I owed him a life debt. He laughed, said friends don't keep score. Pop started writing. "But I've been keeping score, Dante. For 10 years I've watched Derek live like a king off your father's legacy while you scrape by. And I've hated myself for not doing something about it." He tore off the check, slid it across the table, $92,000. Dante stared at it. "Pops, you pay me back when you can," Pops said. "But more than that, you make your father proud. You hear me? David Cross was the best diver I ever knew, and from what I've seen, his son might be even better." Dante's throat was tight. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You still gotta survive the graveyard." Pop sat back down. "And when you do, you're gonna make Derek Stone regret ever betraying your family. You're gonna make sure the whole Gulf knows who really built Stone Maritime Salvage. All right, we're at a critical moment here. Dante's about to dive into the most dangerous waters in the Gulf of Mexico, the same waters where his father died, and he's about to find something down there that will change everything. I would like to know what you think in the comments. Tell me, do you think Derek sabotaged David's equipment? Yes, let's get to the moment you've been waiting for and talk about what Dante found at the bottom of the graveyard. 3 days later, Dante stood on a rented salvage boat 80 miles southeast of Grand Isle, Louisiana, staring down at water so dark it looked like ink. Tony was with him. So was Pops, who'd insisted on coming along just to make sure you don't do anything stupid. "You sure about this?" Tony asked for the 10th time. Dante checked his equipment. New wetsuit, thicker, designed for deep cold water, triple-checked oxygen tanks, backup regulators, underwater lights, salvage bag. "I'm sure," he said. "The coordinates put that casino boat at about 320 feet down," Pops said, looking at the depth finder. "That's technical diving territory. You got maybe 20 minutes at that depth before nitrogen narcosis becomes a problem." Nitrogen narcosis. The bends. When nitrogen in your blood started acting like alcohol in your brain, making you do stupid things like take off your regulator or swim deeper instead of surfacing. It had killed more divers than sharks ever had. "I know my limits," Dante said. He pulled on his mask, stepped to the edge of the boat. The Gulf stretched out in every direction, gray-green and endless. Somewhere down there in the dark was his father's last dream. The salvage job David Cross never got to complete. "Be careful, son," Pop said. Dante nodded. Then he stepped off the boat and dropped into the Gulf. The water swallowed him whole. Cold hit first. Even through the wetsuit, the Gulf in deep water was 58 degrees. Shock your system cold. And came the pressure. The feeling of the ocean pressing in from all sides. Dante equalized, clearing his ears, and started descending 50 feet. The sunlight still reached here, turning everything green-blue 100 feet. The light was fading now, shadows reaching up from below 150 feet, almost complete darkness. Dante turned on his underwater lights 200 feet. The pressure made his wetsuit compress against his skin. Every breath took more effort, 250 feet. Nitrogen narcosis whispered at the edges of his brain, telling him he could breathe water, telling him to go deeper. Dante ignored it. Focused on his father's coordinates, 300 feet, 320 feet. And there it was, the casino riverboat resting on its side in the silt. The hull was covered in barnacles and coral, but Dante could still make out the name. Lucky Lady. She'd gone down in 1992 during Hurricane Andrew. 32 years of sitting at the bottom of the Gulf, full of salvageable equipment nobody else had the skill to reach. Dante swam closer, checking his dive computer. 17 minutes left at this depth before he needed to start ascending. The boat's cargo hold was partially open. Dante squeezed through, his lights cutting through clouds of disturbed silt, slot machines, roulette wheels. All rusted but salvageable for parts. The internal mechanisms alone were worth thousands to collectors and restoration companies. Brass fixtures, copper wiring, stainless steel kitchen equipment. His father had been right. This was a gold mine. Dante started loading his salvage bag, working fast. 12 minutes left. He grabbed a brass porthole, a section of copper pipe, part of a ship's wheel. 8 minutes. He was reaching for another piece when his light swept across something that made his heart stop. A body not recent. The bones were clean, covered in silt, wearing dive gear, wearing a wetsuit with cross maritime recovery patches on the shoulders. No. Dante swam closer, hands shaking. The skeleton's wrist had a watch. A Rolex Submariner with an engraved back plate. Dante knew that watch. He'd saved up for 6 months to buy it for his father's 40th birthday. The engraving read, "To Dad, dive deep, rise higher." Dante, his father, was here. David Cross hadn't died at the Chandeleur Islands like the Coast Guard report said. He died here, in the graveyard, in the Lucky Lady, which meant Derek had lied about everything. Dante's vision blurred, whether from tears or nitrogen narcosis, he didn't know. His chest felt like it was caving in. His dive computer started beeping. 4 minutes. He needed to surface now or risk the bends, but he couldn't leave his father down here. Not again. Not for another 10 years. Dante grabbed the skeleton gently, carefully, started to lift it and saw something underneath, a waterproof case. Sealed tight, Dante's fingers were numb, his brain screaming at him to surface, but he grabbed the case and kicked hard toward open water, up through the dark. 200 feet, 150, 100, his lungs were burning. The nitrogen in his blood was making him dizzy, telling him to sleep, to rest, to stop swimming. 50 feet, 25, surface. Dante broke through the water, gasping, vision swimming, arms barely working. Dante, Tony was screaming, pulling him toward the boat. What happened? You were down there too long. My father, Dante gasped. He's down there. Derek lied. Then the adrenaline ran out and everything went black. Dante woke up on the deck of the boat with Pops shining a flashlight in his eyes and Tony looking like he'd seen a ghost. Many fingers am I holding up? Pops demanded. 3. I'm fine. Not fine. You stayed down there 43 minutes at 320 feet. You're lucky you're not dead from the bends. Pops sat back, exhaled hard. What the hell happened down there? Dante sat up too fast. His head spun, but he pushed through it. Where's the case? The waterproof case I brought up. Right here, Tony said, holding it. Dante, what? Open it. Case was military grade, sealed with a combination lock. But the lock was corroded from 32 years underwater. Tony grabbed a crowbar and pried it open. Inside was a plastic bag, and inside that bag were documents, yellowed but dry, preserved. Dante's hands were still shaking as he pulled them out. The first document was a salvage map, more detailed than the one in his father's notebook. Coordinates for not just the Lucky Lady, but 6 other wrecks in the graveyard. Each one marked with estimated values. Casino boat, $200K oil dollars rig equipment cash, $340K sunken dollars yacht drug runner, $180K in seized asset shipping container spill, $290K in electronics. His father had mapped out over $1 million in salvage. The second document made Dante's blood pressure spike. It was a legal contract, partnership dissolution agreement between David Cross and Derek Stone, dated 3 weeks before his father died. I hereby terminate all business relationships with Derek Stone effective immediately due to gross negligence and financial impropriety, Dante read out loud. His voice shook. Derek Stone is removed as partner and beneficiary from all cross-maritime recovery assets, insurance policies, and contracts. Signed by David Cross. Notarized. Legal. Derek was getting kicked out, Pop said quietly. Your father was cutting him loose. The third document was worse. An insurance investigation report. Preliminary findings on equipment tampering. David Cross had filed it with an independent investigator 2 weeks before he died, claiming someone had been sabotaging his dive gear. He suspected Derek. The investigator's notes said, client reports 3 near-fatal equipment failures in 6 weeks. Upon examination, found oxygen tank valve deliberately loosened and depth gauge tampered with. Client fears former partner Derek Stone may be attempting to cause fatal accident. Recommended immediate legal action and police involvement. There was a sticky note attached in his father's handwriting. Meeting with investigator and police in 1 week. Have enough evidence to put Derek away. Going to make one last dive to the graveyard before the case goes public. If something happens to me, make sure Dante gets this. David, the boat deck was silent except for the waves slapping against the hull. He knew, Dante said. His throat felt like someone was choking him. My father knew Derek was trying to kill him, and he came out here anyway. Probably figured it was the one place Derek wouldn't follow, Pops said. The graveyard was too dangerous for Derek to dive himself. Your father thought he'd be safe. Derek sabotaged his equipment before he left, Tony finished. Made sure he wouldn't come back up. Dante looked at the documents, evidence. Real, legal, notarized evidence that Derek Stone had murdered his father, the police, Dante said. We take this to the police right now. Pops put a hand on his shoulder. I know you want justice, but think this through. This case is 10 years cold. Derek's got money now, connections, lawyers. A good attorney will say these documents could have been forged, could have been planted. They'll drag this out for years. So what? We just let him get away with it, Pop said. His eyes had that sharp look again, the Coast Guard captain look. We're smarter than that. Right now Derek's panicking. He's got that Beaumont Energy contract, $500,000 job, $3 million penalty if he doesn't deliver, and he can't find anyone willing to dive the graveyard. Dante saw where this was going. I dive it, complete the salvage, make the money. More than that, Pops continued. You lease the graveyard yourself. Work these coordinates your father left you. Build up capital. By the time Derek realizes what's happening, you'll have enough money and reputation that when you do take him down, it won't just be criminal charges. You'll own everything he stole from your father. That's the long game, Tony said. You sure you got the patience for that? Dante looked at his father's handwriting on that sticky note. Make sure Dante gets this. His father had known he might die, had left a roadmap anyway, not for revenge, for building something. Yeah, Dante said. I got patience. Gulf Maritime Licensing Bureau was in a concrete building near the port of New Orleans that smelled like coffee and bureaucracy. Pops walked Dante through the door like he owned the place, which after 30 years with the Coast Guard and 15 at the Bureau, he basically did. Washington, the woman at the front desk said warmly. She was Chinese-American, maybe 50, with reading glasses on a chain. Thought you retired. A consultant now, Ming. Very official. Pops winked. Need to file a salvage lease for the graveyard. Zone 7, grid coordinates November 7 through November 12. Ming's eyebrows went up. The graveyard. Nobody's leased that area in 8 years. Last guy who tried ended up in the hospital for 3 months with the bends. This one's different, Pops said, gesturing to Dante. Ming Chen, meet Dante Cross, David Cross's son. Recognition flashed across Ming's face. David Cross. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Best deepwater diver I ever met. I'm sorry for your loss, sweetheart. Thank you, ma'am, Dante said. You got your daddy's skills. Yes, ma'am, and his maps. Ming studied him for a long moment. Then she said, lease on the graveyard is $75,000 a year. Requires a commercial diving certification, liability insurance, and proof of equipment standards. You got all that? Dante handed over his certification, master level, same as his father had. The insurance paperwork Pops had helped him file. Equipment manifest showing he met federal standards. Ming reviewed everything. This is all in order, but Dante, I gotta ask, you know what you're getting into. The graveyard's called that for a reason. My father believed there was something worth finding down there, Dante said. I trust him. Ming's expression softened. David was a good man, honest, hard worker. I always wondered what happened to his company after he passed. Derek Stone took it, Dante said simply. Derek Stone, Ming repeated, and something in her tone made it clear she knew exactly who Derek was. That man's been filing complaints with this office for years, trying to get exclusive rights to the graveyard, undercut competitors, bend regulations. We've shut him down every time. She stamped Dante's paperwork with more force than necessary. Congratulations, Mr. Cross. You are now the official lessee of Deepwater Recovery Zone 7, commonly known as the Graveyard. Lease term is 1 year, renewable. And between you and me, she leaned forward. I hope you find everything your father was looking for down there. Dante was walking out of the bureau building when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Cross, he said. Mr. Cross, my name is Chen Zhao. I'm the CEO of Gulf Logistics and Recovery Corporation. Tay stopped walking. Gulf Logistics was one of the biggest maritime salvage companies in the South. They worked with oil companies, shipping corporations, government contracts, multi-million-dollar operations. How can I help you, Mr. Zhao? I'll be direct. I heard through certain channels that you recently leased the graveyard. Chen's voice had a slight accent, Chinese, but Americanized from decades of living here. I've been trying to contract that zone for 3 years. Nobody's had the skill to work it. But I'm told you might be different. Told you that? Captain Washington speaks very highly of you, says you're as good as your father was, maybe better. Pops had made a phone call. Dante made a mental note to buy that man a very expensive bottle of whiskey. I can work it, Dante said. Then I have a proposition. I have a client, offshore drilling company, who needs equipment recovered from a collapsed platform in that zone. The equipment is worth $300,000. I'll pay you $150,000 to recover it. You keep whatever else you find down there. $150,000 for one job. When do you need it done? Dante asked. 2 weeks. Can you deliver? Dante thought about the lucky lady sitting at 320 feet, thought about his father's maps, thought about Mama Louise's medication and Jasmine's tuition and the roof that leaked every time it rained. I can deliver, he said. Excellent. I'll have my assistant send over the contract details. Mr. Cross, Chen paused. I've been in this business for 30 years, built my company from one boat and a dream. I recognize hunger when I hear it. You sound like a man with something to prove. Just trying to honor my father's legacy, Dante said. The best way to honor legacy is to build something bigger than what came before. I look forward to working with you. The call ended. Dante stood there on the sidewalk outside the Gulf Maritime Licensing Bureau, and for the first time in 10 years he felt something he'd almost forgot, hope. That night, Dante sat at Mama Louise's kitchen table with his sister Jasmine and explained everything. The lease, the Chen Zhao contract, the plan. Jasmine listened without interrupting, which was unusual for her. When he finished, she said, "So you're really doing this, going independent?" "Yeah. You think you can make it work?" "I know I can." Mama Louise had been quiet through the whole explanation. Now she put her hand over Dante's. "Baby, you know I support you, but this is dangerous. That water already took your father. I can't lose you too." "You won't," Dante said. "Mama, I've been diving since I was 18. I know the Gulf better than I know this city. And I'm not doing this to be reckless. I'm doing this because it's the only way we're ever going to get out from under Derek's shadow." "What about Derek?" Jasmine asked. "When he finds out you leased the graveyard, he's going to lose his mind." "Him? Dante, he can't touch me," Dante said. "The lease is legal. The contract with Chen is legal. I'm not working his waters, not using his equipment, not breaking any rules. All I'm doing is the job I was born to do." Jasmine was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You're going to need help." Got Tony. "And Pops is advising." "I'm not talking about diving. I'm talking about the business side." She pulled out her laptop. "Accounting, contracts, licensing, taxes, equipment purchases. You're good underwater, Dante, but you don't know anything about running a company." "You do? I'm getting a degree in business administration, aren't I?" She opened a spreadsheet. "I've already started building you a budget. Equipment costs, fuel, insurance, dock fees, crew wages. If you're doing this, you're doing it right." Dante looked at his little sister, not so little anymore at 21, and felt pride swell in his chest. "You do that, we're family," Jasmine said simply. "Besides, someone's gotta make sure you don't go broke in the first month. What about school? I'll manage. My classes are mostly in the mornings. I can work for you in the afternoons." She looked at him seriously. "But I want a real salary, not pennies. If I'm going to be your CFO, I want to be paid like one." "Deal," Dante said. 15% of net profits. Jasmine's eyes widened. 15%, your family. And this is our company, not just mine, ours. Mama Louise started crying, happy tears this time. "Your father would be so proud of both of you. Wait, guys, you won't believe what is coming up next. It's going to make you want to jump through the screen and cheer. Dante's about to make his first solo dive into the graveyard, and this is me saying, what he brings up is going to change the whole thing." Leave me a comment and tell me, guys, if you think Dante's making the right move right now, or if he should have just taken Derek to the police. Please, I want to hear your thoughts. The thing about the Gulf of Mexico that most people don't understand is that she's moody. Some days she's calm as a bathtub. Other days she's trying to kill you. The day Dante made his first official dive as an independent salvage operator, she was somewhere in between. Tony piloted the boat, a 32-foot vessel Dante had rented from a guy in Chalmette who owed Pops a favor. Not fancy, but it had a working engine and a functional dive platform, which was all that mattered. You sure about this? Tony asked for probably the 20th time. Stop asking me that, Dante said, checking his equipment. New oxygen tanks, double redundancy system, new depth gauge, new regulator, everything inspected 3 times because he wasn't taking any chances. It's just that the last time you went down there you passed out and nearly died. I was down there too long last time. Today I'm following protocol. 25 minutes max at depth, then controlled ascent with decompression stops. By the book. Your father probably said the same thing. Dante stopped, looked at Tony. You trying to psych me out? I'm trying to make sure you come back up, Tony said. Because if you die down there, your grandmother's going to kill me. And honestly, Mama Louise scares me more than the Gulf. Despite everything, Dante laughed. Fair point. Coordinates Chen Zhao had sent were for a collapsed oil platform support structure about a quarter mile from where the lucky lady rested. The equipment Chen needed recovered was a specialized drilling apparatus, expensive, high-tech, and sitting at 280 feet down, easier than the casino boat. Shallower. Less time at depth. Dante could do this in his sleep. He pulled on his mask, gave Tony a thumbs up, and dropped into the water. The Gulf welcomed him like an old friend. Cold, dark, infinite, Dante descended through the familiar layers. Sunlight zone, twilight zone. The deep where his lights were the only thing between him and total darkness. 200 feet, 250, 280, there. The collapsed platform structure was a twisted mess of metal and cable, half buried in silt. And caught in the wreckage, exactly where Chen's specs said it would be, was the drilling apparatus. Dante got to work attaching cables. Rigging the pulley system, clearing debris. The work was methodical, careful. This wasn't treasure hunting, this was precision salvage, and one wrong move could bring the whole structure down on his head. 15 minutes in, he had the apparatus secured and ready to lift. That's when he saw the cargo container. It was half buried in the sand, just beyond the platform wreckage. 53 feet long, standard shipping size. The kind that fell off container ships during storms and sank to the bottom. Dante checked his dive computer. 8 minutes left at depth, he should surface. Stick to the plan, come back later for the container, but something made him swim closer. The container's door was partially open, and inside Dante could see crates. Dozens of them. He squeezed through the opening, lights cutting through the darkness. Electronics. High-end electronics. Laptops, tablets, servers. All waterlogged now, but the components inside. The rare earth metals, the processors, the specialized chips, still valuable. His father's map had mentioned a container spill. Estimated value, $290K. This dollars was it. Dante marked the coordinates on his GPS, took photos with his underwater camera, then started his ascent. His computer was beeping. 5 minutes at depth, time to go. He surfaced right on schedule. Tony was waiting on the platform, looking relieved. You good? Better than good, Dante said, pulling himself onto the boat. I got Chen's equipment, plus I found the shipping container from my dad's map. We're going to need a bigger boat. Chen Zhao met Dante at the port of New Orleans 3 days later to inspect the recovered drilling apparatus. He was a short man, maybe 5'6", but he carried himself like someone much taller. Expensive suit, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Impressive work, Chen said, examining the equipment. No damage. Clean recovery. You delivered ahead of schedule. That's the plan with every job, Dante said. Chen smiled. I like confidence, especially when it's backed by competence. He handed Dante a check. $150,000 as agreed, plus a bonus, $10,000 for early delivery. Dante stared at the check. $160,000, more money than he'd made in 2 years working for Derek. Mr. Cross, Chen said. I'm going to be direct with you. I've been watching the Gulf salvage industry for a long time. There's talent, and then there's exceptional talent. You're the latter. Thank you, sir. I'd like to propose a partnership, long-term. I provide the capital for equipment and expansion. You provide the expertise and labor. We split profits 60-40. You take 60. Dante's heart started pounding. You're offering me a business partnership. I'm offering you a chance to build an empire, Chen said. I have clients all over the Gulf Coast who need deep water recovery work. Oil companies, shipping corporations, government contracts. Right now I have to subcontract that work because I don't have divers skilled enough. But with you, we could dominate this market. 60-40 in my favor, Dante asked. Most partnerships split 50-50. Because I'm not the one risking my life at 300 feet underwater, Chen said simply. You are. The person taking the real risk deserves the larger share. That's fair business. Fair business. Derek had never once used those words. I need to think about it, Dante said. Of course. Take your time. But Dante, Chen's expression was serious now. In this industry, there are two kinds of people, those who exploit talent and those who invest in it. I built Gulf Logistics from one boat 30 years ago because people invested in me when I was young and hungry. I'm offering you the same thing. Don't let past betrayals make you too afraid to trust the right people. That night, Dante sat on the front porch of Mama Louise's shotgun house with a bottle of Abita beer and his father's notebook. The street was quiet. Neighbor's TV playing through an open window. Somewhere down the block, someone was grilling. He could smell charcoal and andouille sausage, normal New Orleans sounds, home sounds. Been sitting out here for 2 hours, a voice said. Dante turned. Simone Baptiste stood at the bottom of the porch steps, wearing scrubs from her shift at Chilean Medical Center. Simone had lived 3 houses down since they were kids. They'd grown up together, played in the streets during second lines, survived Hurricane Katrina in the same shelter, graduated from the same high school. She'd been in love with him since they were 16. He'd been too stupid to notice until they were 23. And then her father had drowned. Simone had watched it happen. Watched her father, a volunteer rescuer, get swept away trying to save people during a flood. She'd been trapped in rising water, screaming for help, and her father had died getting to her. She hadn't spoken a word since. Not physically couldn't. The doctors said there was nothing wrong with her vocal cords. Psychologically couldn't. Selective mutism, they called it. The trauma had locked her voice away somewhere she couldn't reach. Now she communicated through writing and sign language. She pulled out her phone, typed, "Heard you quit Derek. Everyone's talking about it." "Yeah," Dante said. "I'm on my own now." "Good." "He was using you." "I know." She sat down next to him on the steps, pulled out her phone again. "You look stressed." "Big decision. Someone offered me a partnership, business partnership. 60-40 split in my favor. He provides capital, I provide the work." "Sounds good. What's the problem?" "Last time I trusted someone with my family's business, he killed my father and stole everything." Simone was quiet for a moment. Then she typed, "Not everyone is Derek." "Do I know? You don't." "That's what trust is. A risk." She showed him the message, then kept typing, "But you're good at risk. You dive into pitch black water 300 feet down and bet your life you'll come back up. That's bigger than trusting a business partner." Dante laughed despite himself. "You always make things sound so simple." "They are simple. You're just overthinking." She smiled. Simone had the kind of smile that lit up her whole face. "Take the partnership. Build something big. Make Derek regret ever messing with a cross." "Sound like my sister." Jasmine's smart. Listen to her. She stood up, squeezed his shoulder, and headed back toward her house. Dante watched her go, then looked at his father's notebook again. Build something big, yeah, he could do that. Derek Stone found out about the lease 3 days later. Dante was at the dock loading equipment onto the boat when Derek's Escalade screeched into the parking lot. Derek jumped out, face purple with rage, and stormed toward Dante like a hurricane. "You leased the graveyard." Derek shouted. People on the dock turned to watch. "You went behind my back and leased my salvage zone." "Your salvage zone." Dante kept loading equipment, didn't even look at Derek. "Last I checked, the Gulf of Mexico belongs to the U.S. government, not you. Been trying to get rights to that area for 3 years. Should have tried harder." Derek got in Dante's face. Close enough that Dante could smell the expensive cologne he wore. "You think you're smart. You think you can just take what's mine." "Nothing down there is yours," Dante said calmly. "My lease is legal, my equipment is legal, my contracts are legal. You don't have a say in what I do anymore." Ungrateful piece of. Derek caught himself, looked around at the people watching, lowered his voice. I gave you a job when you were nothing. I kept your family fed for 10 years. You paid me scraps while you got rich off my work, Dante said. That's not gratitude, that's exploitation. Fine. You want to play this game? Let me tell you something. Derek's smile was vicious now. The graveyard is dangerous, people die down there. And when you inevitably screw up, when you get hurt or killed or can't deliver on your contracts, I'll be right there to pick up the pieces. I'll take your lease, your equipment, everything, just like I did with your father. Doc went silent. Dante turned to face Derek fully for the first time. What did you say? Derek realized his mistake immediately. His face went pale. I didn't mean, just like you did with my father, Dante repeated. That's what you said. How'd you do that, Derek? How'd you take everything from him? I didn't. It was legal, the partnership agreement. The partnership agreement he terminated 3 weeks before he died. Dante pulled out his phone, showed Derek a photo of the dissolution contract. This agreement, Derek's eyes went wide. Where did you get that? My father left me a lot of things, Derek, information. Evidence, truth. Dante stepped closer. I know what you did. I know you sabotaged his equipment. I know you forged insurance documents. I know you murdered him. You can't prove that, Derek said, but his voice shook. Yet, Dante said quietly, but I will. And when I do, you're going to lose everything, just like you made my family lose everything. Derek opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time in 10 years, he had nothing to say. Get off my dock, Dante said, before I throw you off. Derek backed away, stumbled into his Escalade and peeled out of the parking lot. The dock workers started clapping. Tony walked up, grinning. Man, I've been waiting 10 years to see someone put Derek in his place. That's not the end of it, Dante said. He's going to come back. He's going to try something. Him try, Tony said. You've got the law on your side now, and you've got people who believe in you. Dante looked around the dock, at the workers who'd stopped to watch, at Pops who'd shown up and was nodding in approval, at Jasmine who'd driven down and was filming the whole thing on her phone. Yeah, Dante said. Yeah, I guess I do. That night Dante was in his bedroom going over Chen Zhao's partnership contract when his window exploded, glass everywhere. Dante hit the floor on instinct, heart hammering. A brick lay in the middle of his floor, wrapped in paper. Dante grabbed it, carefully unwrapped the note. Stay out of the graveyard or you'll end up like your father. His hands were shaking, not from fear. From rage, Mama Louise rushed into the room. Dante, what happened? Someone threw a brick through my window. Wood, she saw the note. Her face went hard. Derek, don't know that? Baby, I know that man. He's scared, and scared people do desperate things. She sat on his bed, careful of the glass. Maybe you should back off just for a while, let things cool down. Mama, if I back off now, Derek wins again. I don't care about winning, Mama Louise said. I care about you being alive. Dante's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, a photo, his boat, with the fuel line cut. Another text, next time it won't be the boat, sabotage. Derek was actually sabotaging him. Dante, you're scaring me, Mama Louise said. What is it? Dante showed her the photo. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she said, you need to go to the police. Tell them what? Someone cut my fuel line, threw a brick. They'll write a report and nothing will happen. Derek's got connections, Mama. He's got money. The police aren't going to touch him without proof. Then get proof. Trying, but it takes time. You might not have, Mama Louise said quietly. Baby, I know you want justice for your father. I want it too, but not at the cost of losing you. Dante's phone buzzed again. This time it was Simone. I saw someone at your boat tonight. Took a photo. Call me. Dante's heart jumped. He dialed immediately. Simone answered but didn't speak. She never did, just waited. Simone, you said you saw someone at my boat. The sound of typing. Then her text-to-speech app read. I was walking home from my shift. Saw someone at the marina messing with your boat. Took a photo before he ran. I'm sending it now. A picture came through, grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. The man at Dante's boat, holding wire cutters and a flashlight, face partially visible. It wasn't Derek, it was Reggie Williams, Derek's head of security. Ex-Coast Guard, got dishonorably discharged for assault. Now he did Derek's dirty work. Evidence. Real, actual evidence. Simone, you're a genius, Dante said. Thank you. More typing. Be careful if Derek's sending people after you. He's desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. I know, I will. He hung up, looked at Mama Louise. I got him. Got who? Proof. Derek sent someone to sabotage my boat, and there's a witness with photo evidence. Mama Louise's expression shifted, from worried to something harder, something fierce. Then you take this to the police. You file charges. And you don't let that man get away with one more thing. Dante nodded, started to call Pops, then stopped, because calling the police meant escalation, meant lawyers, meant Derek would know Dante had evidence. And if Derek knew Dante had evidence, he might do something truly desperate. No, Dante had a better idea. He was going to finish what his father started. He was going to work the graveyard, make the money, build the reputation. Get so big and so successful that when he finally brought Derek down, it wouldn't just be criminal charges. It would be complete and total destruction. He texted Simone, "Save that photo. Don't show anyone yet. I'm going to need it later," she responded. "Are you sure?" "Yeah, trust me, I do. Be safe." Dante looked at his father's notebook one more time. "I'm going to make you proud, Dad," he said quietly. "I promise." Tomorrow, he'd complete the Chen Zhao partnership. Tomorrow, he'd dive the graveyard again and recover that shipping container. Tomorrow, he'd start building the empire his father never got to build. And Derek Stone wouldn't know what hit him until it was too late. Dante signed Chen Zhao's partnership papers at a coffee shop on Magazine Street at 7 in the morning. Chen slid the contract across the table, along with a pen that probably cost more than Dante's wetsuit. "You're making the right decision." "So," Dante said, signing his name. His father's name, Cross. The name Derek had tried to erase from the maritime salvage industry, not anymore. Chen pulled out a checkbook, actual paper check, old school, and started writing. Initial investment capital. 200,000 for equipment upgrades, boat purchase, crew expansion, and operational costs. This is separate from job payments. Consider it your signing bonus. Dante stared at the check. $200,000. "Mr. Zhao." "Chen, call me Chen. We're partners now." He pushed the check across the table. "And before you get all humble and try to refuse it, understand something. I don't invest in people I don't believe in. I've watched you work. Watched how you handle pressure, how you problem solve, how you treat your crew. You're not just a good diver, Dante. You're a good man. That's rare in this industry." "Derek wasn't," Dante said quietly. "No, Derek Stone is what happens when talent meets greed without character to balance it out. He had the opportunity to build something meaningful with your father. Instead, he chose shortcuts and betrayal." Chen leaned back. "You know what the difference is between a business that lasts 5 years and one that lasts 50 years? Foundation. Derek built his business on theft and exploitation. That's sand. You're building yours on skill and integrity. That's bedrock." Dante folded the check, put it in his pocket. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't." "Now," Chen pulled out a tablet. "I have 3 clients who need deep water recovery work in the next 60 days. Combined value of $420,000. You deliver on all 3, and I have 2 more lined up behind them. Within 6 months, you'll have more work than you can handle alone. Then I'll hire more people." "Exactly." Chen smiled. "Think bigger, Dante. You're 28 years old. You've got 40 years of diving ahead of you if you're smart about it. But the real money isn't in diving yourself forever. It's in building a company that can operate whether you're in the water or not. You train people, you build teams, you create systems. And eventually you own something bigger than yourself." It was the same thing his father used to say. "My dad wanted to expand," Dante said, "before he died. He had plans for 3 more boats, a training program for young divers, partnerships with universities for marine research. Derek shut all that down the minute he took over." "Then don't just match what Derek stole from your father," Chen said. "Exceed it. Build something so big that when people talk about Gulf salvage, they don't say Derek Stone's name anymore. They say Dante Cross." Tony was waiting at the marina when Dante arrived, looking nervous. "What's wrong?" Dante asked. "Nothing's wrong, just man, you really doing this, going all in?" "Already did." Dante showed him the partnership contract. "We're official, Cross Maritime Recovery is back." Tony's eyes went wide. "You're using your dad's company name." "It was always supposed to be mine," Dante said. "Derek stole it once, I'm taking it back." "Derek's going to lose his mind when he finds out. Let him." Dante started loading equipment onto the boat, the rented one, but not for long. With Chen's investment capital, he'd be buying his own vessel by next week. "Right now, we got work to do. That shipping container isn't going to recover itself." They headed out into the Gulf an hour later. The water was choppy, storm coming in from the east, probably hit by evening, but nothing they couldn't handle. The coordinates led them back to the graveyard, about half a mile from where the lucky lady rested. Dante had been thinking about his father's body down there. Thinking about how Derek had lied, told everyone David died at the Chandelure Islands, probably dumped fake remains somewhere to make it convincing. But David Cross was in the graveyard. Had been for 10 years. And Dante was going to bring him home, just not today. Today was about the container. You sure about this? Tony asked as Dante geared up. Weather's turning. Got 3 hours before that storm hits. Plenty of time. Dante dropped into the water. The descent was familiar now. Almost comfortable. 50 feet, 100, 150, 200. The shipping container sat exactly where he'd marked it on GPS. 53 feet of rusted steel half buried in silt. Dante squeezed through the partially open door. The crates inside were waterlogged, falling apart. But the electronics inside, laptops, tablets, servers, all still in sealed plastic, were salvageable, not for resale as working units, but for parts. The rare earth metals alone were worth a fortune. Neodymium, dysprosium, europium, elements used in everything from cell phones to electric cars. Refineries would pay top dollar for this. Dante started loading his salvage bag, worked methodically, carefully. No rushing. That's when he noticed something odd. One of the crates in the back corner wasn't like the others. Different markings. Heavier. Dante pried it open. Inside were bricks. Wrapped in plastic, not drugs. Something else. Gold. Actual gold bricks, stamped with refinery marks. 20 of them, each one maybe 2 pounds. Dante's brain did the math. 40 pounds of gold at current market prices, roughly $2,000 per ounce, meant this crate alone was worth over $1 million. His father's map had listed the container at $290K in electronics. David hadn't known about the gold. Probably nobody did. Some smuggler's shipment lost during a storm, sitting at the bottom of the Gulf for who knows how long. Finders keepers in maritime salvage law, as long as it wasn't legally claimed cargo. And something told Dante whoever lost $1 million in smuggled gold wasn't about to file an insurance claim. He loaded the gold into his salvage bag first. Then as much of the electronics as he could carry. Checked his dive computer. 22 minutes at depth. Time to go. He started his ascent, slow and controlled. Decompression stops at specific depths to let the nitrogen in his blood dissipate safely, surfaced right as the first raindrops started falling. Tony helped him onto the boat, eyes widening when he saw the salvage bag. Please tell me that's what I think it is. Depends, Dante said, pulling out one of the gold bricks. What do you think it is? Gold, that's gold. Holy Dante, how much is down there? 20 bricks. About $1 million worth. Tony sat down hard. $1 million. Another 200,000 in electronics once we strip the rare earth metals. Dante started stripping off his dive gear. We're going to need to make 3 more trips to get everything, but not today. Storms coming in fast. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The Gulf was turning gray-green, waves picking up. Tony fired up the engine and they headed back toward New Orleans, racing the storm. What are you going to do with $1 million? Tony asked over the engine noise. Dante had been thinking about that the whole way up from the bottom. First, pay back Pops, double what he loaned me. Then buy Mama Louise a house, not in the 9th Ward, somewhere nice. Gently maybe, or Lakeview, somewhere she doesn't have to worry about flooding or roof leaks or anything. He looked at Tony. Then I'm buying our own boat, a real one. Deep-sea salvage vessel with all the equipment we need, and I'm hiring a full crew. You, me, and at least 4 more divers. 4 more? Dante, there's not that much work. There will be. Chen's got contracts lined up. And once word gets out that Cross Maritime Recovery is back and delivering results, we'll have more work than we can handle. Tony was quiet for a moment. Then he said, your dad would be proud, man. You know that, right? I hope so, Dante said quietly. I really hope so. They made it back to the marina 20 minutes before the storm hit for real. Rain coming down in sheets. Wind howling, the kind of weather that made you remember why New Orleans got nervous during hurricane season. Dante secured the salvage bag in his truck. No way he was leaving $1 million in gold sitting on the dock, and headed home. Mama Louise was in the kitchen making red beans and rice when he walked in, soaking wet. Baby, you're dripping all over my clean floor. Sorry, Mama. He kicked off his boots, grabbed a towel. Where's Jasmine? Library. studying for midterms. Mama Louise stirred her pot. You get the salvage job done. Yeah, and then some. He pulled out one of the gold bricks, set it on the kitchen table. Mama Louise turned around, wooden spoon in hand, and stared. Dante Jerome Cross, is that real gold? Yes, ma'am. Found 20 of them in a shipping container, about $1 million worth. She sat down slowly. Didn't touch the gold, just looked at it like it might disappear. $1 million. I'm buying you a house, Mama. A real house. Somewhere safe. Somewhere you don't have to worry about anything. Baby, I don't need. I know you don't need it, but I need to give it to you. Dante's voice cracked a little. I need to make up for 10 years of barely scraping by. 10 years of watching you ration your medication and work yourself sick and pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. Please, let me do this. Mama Louise's eyes filled with tears. Your father used to say the same thing. Mama Louise, when I make it big, I'm buying you a mansion. I'd tell him I didn't need a mansion, just needed my family safe and happy. Then that's what you'll get, Dante said. She reached across the table, put her hand over his. I'm already happy, baby, because I get to watch my grandson become the man his father always knew he'd be. Storm knocked out power for 3 hours that night. Dante sat on the front porch in the dark, listening to rain hammer the roof and watching lightning split the sky over the city. His phone buzzed. Text from Simone. You okay? Yeah. Just watching the storm. Can I come over? It's pouring. I have an umbrella. 5 minutes later, Simone appeared on his porch, completely soaked despite the umbrella. She was laughing. Dante could see it in her shoulders, the way her eyes crinkled, even though no sound came out. He grabbed a towel, wrapped it around her shoulders. You're crazy, you know that. She pulled out her phone. You're the one diving 300 feet into pitch-black water looking for treasure. I'm just walking in rain. Who's really crazy? Fairpoint. They sat on the porch steps together, watching the storm. New Orleans storms were something else. Loud, violent, beautiful in a way that made you respect the power of nature. Simone's phone lit up. I heard you found something big today. News travels fast. Tony texted me. Said you're buying Mama Louise a house, and paying back Pops, and buying a real boat, and hiring a crew. Dante leaned back against the porch railing. 6 months ago, I was making $4,000 and thinking that was just how life was going to be. Now I'm sitting here planning how to spend $1 million. It's not luck, Simone typed. It's skill and courage. You earned this. Doesn't feel real yet. It will. She showed him the message, then kept typing. When you buy that house, when you hire that crew, when you build something so big that Derek can't touch it, that's when it'll feel real. You think I'm doing the right thing, not going to the police yet? Simone was quiet. Well, she was always quiet, but this time she took a long time to type her response. I think there's more than one kind of justice. Putting Derek in jail is one kind. But beating him at his own game, taking back everything he stole, proving you're better than he ever was, that's another kind, maybe a better kind. Sound like Chen. Smart people think alike. She smiled. Also, I looked him up. Chen Zhao built Gulf Logistics from nothing. Started as a Vietnamese refugee with one fishing boat. Now he's worth $40 million. If he believes in you, you should believe in you too. Dante looked at her, really looked at her. Simone, with her scrub still on from her shift, hair pulled back, face free of makeup, just sitting in the rain with him because she knew he needed company. Beautiful. She'd always been beautiful. Simone, he started. She looked at him, waiting. When this is all over, when I've built the company, when Derek's handled, when things are stable. He didn't know how to finish the sentence. She saved him. Pulled out her phone, asked me on a date. Yeah, that. Let's say yes. Even though I'm broke and building a business from scratch and probably going to be working 80-hour weeks for the next year, especially because of that, she typed. I don't want the Dante who's already made it. I want the Dante who's building it. The one who's fighting and struggling and refusing to give up. That's the real you. Lightning flashed, illuminating her face for just a second. Dante kissed her. She kissed him back. And for a moment, in the middle of a New Orleans thunderstorm, everything else disappeared. Derek, the business, the pressure, the fear. Just two people who'd known each other their whole lives finally figuring out what that meant. When they pulled apart, Simone was crying. Happy tears, she typed. I've been waiting 10 years for you to do that. Sorry it took so long. The wait. The next morning, Dante met with a precious metals refinery in Metairie to sell the gold. The refinery owner, A Lebanese man named Rashid who'd been in the business for 30 years, examined each brick carefully, testing purity, checking weight. "Where'd you get these?" Rashid asked. "Maritime salvage. Found them in a shipping container in the Gulf." "You check if they're stolen." Ran the serial numbers through the federal database. No hits. Whoever lost these didn't report them, which means they probably weren't legally acquired in the first place. Rashid nodded slowly. "Smart and legal. Salvage laws on your side." He finished his examination. "These are .9999 pure, 42 pounds total. At current market rates, I can give you 1,200,000. Dante's heart skipped. "Cash, wire transfer. Cash transactions over 10,000 trigger federal reporting." "I'm assuming you want to keep this legitimate." "Completely legitimate. I'm building a business, everything by the book." "Man," Rashid started preparing the paperwork. "You know how many people walk in here with salvage gold and want cash under the table? Then they wonder why the IRS shows up at their door. You're doing this right." The wire transfer hit Dante's bank account 40 minutes later, $1,200,000. Dante sat in his truck in the refinery parking lot and just stared at his phone. $1 million, he called Jasmine. "Tell me you're calling with good news," she answered. "Because I just bombed my accounting midterm." "You didn't bomb it, you never bomb tests." Dante took a breath. "Check the business account, the one you set up for Cross Maritime Recovery," he heard typing. Then Jasmine screamed, "Dante, is this real? Is this, oh my God, is this real?" "It's real. $1 million. "How, what, where did this come from?" Dante laughed, actually laughed. "Found some gold in a shipping container, sold it this morning. It's legit, it's legal, and it's ours." Jasmine was crying now, happy crying. "We're really doing this, we're really building something." "Yeah, baby girl, we really are." Okay, let me think." She was switching into business mode now. Dante could hear it in her voice. "First, we set aside 30% for taxes, non-negotiable. Then we pay back Pops like you promised. Then we buy Mama a house." "Already looking at listings," Jasmine said. "There's a beautiful place in Gently. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, brand new roof, raised foundation for flood protection. It's 400,000. Buy it." "Dante, that's a lot of." "Buy it, Jasmine. Cash offer, close as fast as possible. I want Mama Louise in that house before the end of the month." There was a pause. Then Jasmine said quietly, "You're a good man, Dante Cross. Just trying to take care of family. That's what makes you good." So, Derek later found out about Cross Maritime Recovery at exactly 1 week. Dante was at the port of New Orleans inspecting his new boat. A 45-foot deep-sea salvage vessel with state-of-the-art equipment, twin engines, and enough deck space to handle major recovery operations. When Derek's Escalade rolled up, Derek got out slowly, looked at the boat, looked at Dante, looked at the boat again. Cross Maritime Recovery. Derek read the name painted on the hull. His voice was flat. "You're using your father's company name." "It's my company name now," Dante said. He didn't stop working, just kept checking equipment. "Where'd you get the money for this?" "This boat costs at least 200,000. 300 actually, but I got a good deal." Derek's jaw clenched. "You can't afford this. You had $8,000 saved. I know because I paid you. So where'd the money come from?" "Salvage work." "Turns out when you're not getting robbed by your employer, you can make pretty good money in this industry." "Who's hearing you? Which companies?" "That's proprietary information," Dante said. "Business secret." Derek stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Listen to me very carefully. I will destroy you. I will call every client, every contractor, every licensing board in the Gulf. I will make sure nobody works with you. You understand me? Nobody." "You done?" Dante asked calmly. "Just getting started." "Then let me tell you how this is going to go." Dante finally stopped working, turned to face Derek fully. "You're going to try to sabotage me. You're going to make calls, spread rumors, maybe try some more property damage, and none of it's going to work. You know why?" Derek didn't answer. "Because I'm better than you," Dante said simply. "I'm a better diver, I'm a better businessman, and I'm a better person. And people know it, so go ahead, make your calls. See who picks up for Derek Stone these days." Derek's face went purple. "You arrogant." "I'm not arrogant, I'm confident. There's a difference." Dante picked up his clipboard. "Now if you'll excuse me, I have actual work to do. Feel free to see yourself out." Derek stood there for a long moment, fists clenched, clearly trying to decide if he wanted to escalate to physical violence. Then his phone rang. He looked at the caller ID. Whatever he saw there made his face go pale. He answered. Mr. Beaumont, I was just about to call you. Yes, sir, I understand, but if you could just give me a few more. Dante couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but he didn't need to. Derek's expression told him everything. Sir, please, I just need 2 more weeks. What? No, you can't do that, the contract specifically. Derek's voice got desperate. $3 million is excessive. That's punitive damages, sir. The call ended. Derek stood there holding his phone, looking like someone had punched him in the stomach. Beaumont Energy? Dante asked. Derek didn't answer. Let me guess. You couldn't find anyone willing to dive the graveyard for his recovery contract. You missed the deadline, and now he's invoking the penalty clause. How did you? Derek stopped himself. $3 million, Dante said. That's going to hurt, especially since I heard you're already leveraged pretty heavy on that new warehouse expansion. You don't know anything about my finances. I know your Escalade's a lease, not a purchase. I know you refinanced your house twice in the past 3 years. I know Stone Maritime Salvage looks profitable on paper, but most of that's smoke and mirrors. Dante smiled. Jasmine's good with numbers. She's been doing research. Derek's hands were shaking. You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying watching you fall apart, Dante said honestly. But I'm not losing sleep over it either. You made your choices, Derek. Now you're living with the consequences. I gave you a job when you had nothing. You gave me scraps while you got rich off my father's murder. The word murder hung in the air between them. Derek's face went from purple to white. You can't prove that. Yet, Dante said, but I will, and when I do. $3 million in penalty fees is going to be the least of your problems. Derek backed away toward his Escalade. This isn't over. Yeah, it is, Dante said. You just don't know it yet. Months later, Dante stood in the offices of Cross Maritime Recovery, a real office, not just Jasmine's laptop at Mama Louise's kitchen table, and looked at the numbers. 12 contracts completed, $840,000 in revenue. After expenses, payroll, taxes, and overhead, $460,000 in profit, split 60-40 with Chenmint. Dante's company netted $276,000 in 3 months. We're going to need more boats, Jasmine said. She dropped out of Xavier, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Cross Maritime Recovery was her classroom now, and she was learning faster than any degree could teach her. I'm already talking to a broker in Mobile, Dante said. 2 more vessels. We'll run 3 crews simultaneously, triple our capacity. The Academy, the David Cross Maritime Training Academy. Dante's dream project, free diving certification and maritime skills training for kids from low-income New Orleans families. Kids who'd lost parents to the Gulf, to hurricanes, to violence. Kids who needed a path forward. Opening next month, Dante said. Pops is running it. We've got 15 students enrolled for the first class. Jasmine smiled. Would love this. Yeah, he would. The office door opened. Tony stuck his head in. Boss, you got a visitor, says it's important. Who? Derek Stone. Dante and Jasmine exchanged looks. Let him in, Dante said. Derek walked into the office looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 months. Thinner, gray in his hair that wasn't there before, exhausted. Dante, he said. Can we talk alone? Anything you want to say to me, you can say in front of Jasmine. Derek glanced at her, then back to Dante. Fine, I need help. With what? Beaumont Energy is suing me for $3 million. My lawyers say I'm going to lose. The bank's threatening to foreclose on my warehouse. Stone Maritime Salvage is 30 days from bankruptcy. Derek's voice cracked. I'm losing everything. You came to me because you're the only person in the Gulf who can dive the Beaumont site and recover that equipment. If I can deliver what they contracted for, they'll drop the lawsuit. I'll still have to sell assets to cover operational costs, but I won't lose everything. They sat across from each other in the visitation room, separated by plexiglass. Derek looked smaller somehow. Broken. Why did you come? Derek asked. Because I wanted you to know something, Dante said. I forgive you, Derek blinked. What? I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I'm not carrying your guilt around anymore. You killed my father. You stole from my family. You tried to destroy me. And despite all of that, I won. I built something bigger than what you stole. I created opportunities for hundreds of people. I honored my father's legacy. Don't understand, Derek said. You spent 10 years trying to keep me small, trying to convince me I was nothing without you, and I believed it for a long time. Dante leaned forward. But you were wrong. I was always more than you said I was. I just had to figure that out for myself. So you came here to gloat? No. I came here to let you know that when you get out in 15 years, if you want a job, you can come work for Cross Maritime Recovery. Not as a diver, not in management, but we'll find something for you, because that's what my father would have done. Derek stared at him. After everything I did to you, you'd give me a job. My father believed in second chances. So do I. Dante stood up. But Derek, if you ever betray my trust again, I won't give you a third chance. We clear? Yeah, Derek said quietly. We're clear. Dante walked out of Angola and didn't look back. 5 years later, Cross Maritime Recovery was the largest independent salvage operation in the Gulf of Mexico. 12 boats, 234 employees, annual revenue of $12 million. The David Cross Maritime Training Academy had graduated over 400 students with a 93% job placement rate. Dante and Simone got married at Preservation Hall in the French Quarter, with a second-line parade through the streets afterward. Mama Louise cried through the whole ceremony. Jasmine was maid of honor. They bought a house in Gentilly, 3 blocks from Mama Louise. Chen Zhao expanded their partnership into the Caribbean and Gulf of California. Tony became fleet operations manager, overseeing all 12 vessels. Pops retired from the academy at 70, healthy and happy, having trained a new generation of divers. And one day, Dante got a call from Detective Johnson. Thought you'd want to know, the detective said. We're finally bringing your father's remains up from the graveyard. Coast Guard's doing it tomorrow. Figured you'd want to be there. Dante was there, watched as the Coast Guard divers brought up the skeleton that had rested at 320 feet for 15 years. They held a proper funeral a week later. Buried David Cross in St. Louis Cemetery No. 3, with full honors and a headstone that read, David Cross 197222013, beloved father, visionary, master diver, dive deep, rise higher. At the reception afterward, Dante stood up to give a toast. My father taught me that the Gulf gives to those brave enough to dive deep, he said. For a long time, I thought that meant physical diving, going deeper than anyone else. Finding treasure nobody else could reach, but I realize now he meant something bigger. He looked around the room, at his family, his friends, his employees, his students. He meant diving deep into who you really are, not letting other people define your worth, not letting betrayal make you bitter, not letting fear keep you small. Dante raised his glass. So here's to David Cross, who dove deep and taught his son to do the same. And here's to everyone in this room who's done the same thing, who's faced their fears, overcome their obstacles, and built something beautiful on the other side. David, everyone echoed. That night Dante and Simone sat on their back porch watching fireflies dance over their yard. You did it, Simone said. Her voice was strong now, steady. 3 years of therapy had brought it back fully. Everything you set out to do. Did it, Dante corrected. What's next? Next, Dante thought about it. Next we keep building, keep growing, keep creating opportunities, keep diving deep, Simone smiled. Sounds perfect. And it was. The lesson to be learnt from this story is this: success isn't just about making money, it's about how you make it. Dante could have taken shortcuts, could have gotten revenge through violence, could have let bitterness destroy him the way it destroyed Derek. Instead, he chose the harder path. He built something real, something ethical, something that helped others. Derek had talent but no character. He built on sand, theft, lies, exploitation. And when the tide came in, everything washed away. Dante had talent and character. He built on bedrock, skill, integrity, community. And what he built lasted. The people who exploit you want you to believe you can't succeed without them. They want you to stay small, stay grateful, stay quiet. But you're not small. You're not helpless. And you don't need anyone who treats you like you are. Sometimes the best revenge is building something so successful, so meaningful, so undeniable that the people who underestimated you have to watch you thrive. Dive deep in what you are doing and do all you can to rise higher. That's the lesson to take. If this story gave you value, support the channel by hitting that subscribe button. You can drop your comment telling me what spoke to you. Try sharing this with someone who needs to hear that they're capable of more than they've been told or heard. Stay blessed, stay happy and positive. I will see you in the next one.